What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we are talking about selling off your 2023 rookie picks for some proven production and some values that I think are really great on the Dynasty stock market. If this is your first time on the channel and or you have been tuning in but you are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. The best free way to support me on the channel, and hit that like button. Let's go. The first trade we're going to talk about today is the 105 for Kyle Pitts. Now, at the 105, who are you going to be able to get? You're talking Jahmyr Gibbs or JSN for Kyle Pitts. Now, I've been seeing Jahmyr Gibbs go anywhere into the early second of startups to the mid third of startups, whereas Kyle Pitts is going in the middle third of startups currently right now. Are you potentially losing some value if you get Kyle Pitts? But let us take a step back and reimagine what Kyle Pitts is. Kyle Pitts had an amazing first year as a tight end, and even if he was a wide receiver, he was being taken in the back end of the first round, early second round of startups. Now, of course, we all know what happened last year. Tears his ACL. Doesn't have a great start to the year at all. Felt like he only had one touchdown last season, so it wasn't great. We were all upset about at Arthur Smith. And with Kyle Pitts' peripherals, I mean, he had great stats even last year. Kyle Pitts, so last year he was with being a second-year tight end with a 25% target share and a 12+ ADOT. The only person on that list is Kyle Pitts. So Kyle Pitts is more than just your elite level tight end. He might potentially be an elite level wide receiver. He just hasn't been figured out how to use. He's been hurt, hasn't had the quarterback play with the Atlanta Falcons. So trading, of course, a 105 for Kyle Pitts feels a little bit risky. You might feel like, hey, I'd rather take JSN, depending on team need. But especially if we're talking about a Superflex tight end premium league, I am buying Kyle Pitts for the 105, especially if that is something that the Kyle Pitts manager is open to doing. My second really good value is going to be trading the 110 for Treylon Burks. We've known before, we all know, Treylon Burks was a top 5 Dynasty Superflex pick last offseason, and we all saw what happened this year. Ryan Tannehill played a few games, Treylon Burks got hurt, he comes back, is slow to get back up and starting. He had some great catches, some great highlight reel plays, but nothing of amazing production. Guy was averaging 8.6 fantasy points per game. He definitely could be better than that. And he only had 54 targets in 11 games. So where do I think things get better? I just think the Tennessee Titans offense overall is going to get better this year. I think a full year of Ryan Tannehill. They didn't sign anybody. Right now in the wide receiver core for the Titans is literally just Treylon Burks. I mean, Kyle Phillips, he was a lot of people were excited about him last season. And then Chigakonkwo. Big old chick. So who is there to compete with targets? Maybe they bring someone in for the Titans, but it definitely feels like they're heading towards a rebuild, which is going to benefit Treylon Burks. They're going to be behind a lot of games, have to throw the ball. So I think Treylon Burks, especially this year, feels like a good buy, and especially at the 110. I mean, we're talking like Zay Flowers isn't even on the board. We're talking like Zach Charbonnet or Treylon Burks, and I am taking Treylon Burks all day, every day in that type of trade. So go see if you can trade the 110 for Treylon Burks. I feel like that is even great for a rebuilder because you're getting that upside shot on a wide receiver that potentially could be better than Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, and Zay Flowers, and you're getting him a little bit later in your rookie drafts. If you have the pick 112 and you're looking to trade it for some instant production, because at the 112 we're talking Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, maybe you have to reach on a Devin A. Chain or Kendra Miller is there. A guy that I would prefer to all those guys is going to be Deontay Johnson. Now, I know Deontay Johnson is a little bit older. He is 26. He's going to be 27 by the time the season starts. We don't exactly know what the upside is of Deontay Johnson compared to a few years ago in 2021 when he did average 17 fantasy points per game, because last season it did go down to 10 fantasy points per game and it wasn't great. The thing that we need to look at though is the fact that he is a target hog, a target dominator. Pittsburgh Steelers let go of Chase Claypool. They brought in Allen Robinson, but I know this is also the last year of Deontay Johnson's contract with the Steelers, so it probably will be the George Pickens show. George Pickens is going to eventually become the alpha. Last year he played 17 games and he had 147 targets for 86 receptions. The year before that, he had 169 targets for 107 receptions. So really, the targets were not that far off from previous years. The year before that, he also had 144 targets for 88 receptions in 2020. Last year, even though he had 147 targets, he commanded the 6th most targets out of all wide receivers. If you look back at the 2021 season, when he had 169 targets, the year against Cooper Kupp, he was the wide receiver 2. So Cooper Kupp, of course, had the most targets, but Deontay Johnson was right there as the wide receiver 2. The fact that Deontay Johnson had a 27% target share last season, even with the lack of receptions, that is alpha type territory. I know that last year it did not produce into fantasy football points. I totally hear you on that. But at the 112, who are we looking at giving up? Like we said, we're giving up a player that might develop into something, whereas Deontay Johnson is already developed into something. We just haven't seen that elite level ceiling be hit yet, but he has all the makings to, especially when you're drafting these wide receivers. We want these guys to be elite level target hogs. So I would definitely be putting out feelers for Deontay Johnson, especially if you can get him as your wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4, and he's in your flex. Like, Deontay Johnson has the upside to be a high end wide receiver 2 and potentially even be a low end wide wide receiver one if everything were to play out for Deontay Johnson. My final player that we're going to be talking about today that you should be trading one of your rookie picks for is going to be Tyler Lockett being traded for the 208. So at the 208, we're talking territory of Rashee Rice. We're talking if Roschon Johnson, he hasn't been falling that far, but somehow if he was, like a Tank Bigsby, Josh Downs hasn't been falling this far either. And so we're taking Tyler Lockett. And I already hear the YouTube comments saying, well, Caleb, aren't you really high on JSN? Yes, I am super high on JSN. But I think if you can get this type of elite level production from Tyler Lockett for a middling second round pick that potentially has the value of a 40% hit rate. And like, what's a hit rate? Like, is a hit rate Tyler Lockett type level of production this next year? No. If we look at what he did in 2022, 14.8 fantasy points per game, put him as the wide receiver 16 on a fantasy points per game. The year before that, wide receiver 17 on a fantasy points per game basis. The year before that, wide receiver 12. So this dude is always at least a top 20 wide receiver on a fantasy points per game basis. And somehow right now on Keep Trade Cut, he's the wide receiver 51. Guys, I understand his age. I understand he's 30 years old. He's about to turn 31. The cliff is about to happen. We completely understand that. But even if somehow the cliff does happen and like the cliff makes him like wide receiver 25, like you're buying him at wide receiver 50 prices, but he's gonna way outproduce that this next season. Tell me why you wouldn't be trying to go send that offer for Tyler Lockett, because I bet you whoever has Tyler Lockett, like they're tired. It's not a flashy guy to have. Tyler Lockett is in the same mold Brandon Cooks is in, where it's like this dude puts up elite level production year in and year out, and we just keep disrespecting him in the community because he's not tall enough, he's not flashy enough, he doesn't make the highlight reel catches. When all he did was lose his quarterback in Russell Wilson, and Geno Smith came in, and he still had the same level of production, actually a better level of production last year. So definitely be trying to trade that middling second for Tyler Lockett in your Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues. If you like this video so much, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. We're going to be putting out content each and every day, so we want you in this community. I will catch you guys on the flip side tomorrow. Peace.